This Friday marks the 16th month since I cut my hair last time. Growing out my hair for the first time has been a wild journey. Sometimes too wild. All the expensive struggles of growing a healthy long hair aside, this was the best thing that has ever happened to me. As the hair was getting longer, something happened that I wasn't expecting at all. No one had ever told me this, but after a while, my hair became much more of just a fashion statement. I came to find that my long hair was sending many messages, some of which I honestly didn't know about. As I did some research, I found out that long hair on men has had a lot of influence on our history, psychology, and even our spiritual understanding of the world. From all the rebellistic messages Che Guevara sent with his long hair, to hippie psychonauts who use it as a statement against war, we can see that long hair is a weapon and a tool to send strong messages without using language. In terms to truly understand the symbolic value of long hair on men, we need to take a deep look into long hair on men from a few different perspectives. In this video, I'm going to talk about the evolution of long hair on men and its many effects on our society. Let's together take a look at what long hair does to the psyche of human beings. Also, I want to mention that the timeline for different parts of the video are in the description. Let's dive right in the video. Traces of long hair's effect on our human culture can be found all the way back in one of our earliest civilizations, the Native Americans. In most Native American cultures, one's long hair is their connection to Gaia, the Mother Earth. The Native Americans have always been seen as one of our most spiritual cultures in our human history. Although natives are famous for their old spiritual connection with long hair, they weren't the first to signify the importance of long hair. Long before the time of natives, in ancient Greece, slaves had their hair cut short as a way to disable their sixth sense. Many Eastern and Western ancient cultures believed that long hair could observe energy and even detect lies. Long hair was seen as some form of sixth sense, so in many cultures, only the strongest of men had long hair. Between the Vikings, long hair was a source of power, and even a weapon in cases. Vikings created their strongest gods with symbolic long hair. From the famous Thor in Norse mythology to the great Zeus in Greece, long hair was the hairstyle of gods. This trend continued in many early mythologies. Long hair trend on men, however, did not survive the church later. With the rise of Christianity and church getting in power in Europe, long hair on men was changing its meaning. The church at the time used what they believe as Biblic words to force short hair on men and long hair on women. I'm certainly not the one to say if Bible was actually against long hair on men or not, especially considering that many years later Rastafarian used the same exact book to say that men must maintain a dreadlock hairstyle. That and, the literal fact that Jesus has long hair in literally every single painting of him. We'll go over how Jamaicans use their dreadlocks as weapon in their victory in a minute, but before that, let's take a look at our Jesus situation. How can Christians believe that God wanted neat, short hair on men when his so-said son had longer, straight, hippie hair? Turns out there are people out there fighting to say that Jesus actually had short hair. Bynum, sorry by the way if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, who is one of our older Christian activists, has famously said that Jesus has long hair in most paintings because most of them were painted in the more recent era, with what he called the satanic idea that Jesus wore long hair. His words, not mine. He wrote a lot about this matter in one of his essays entitled Did Jesus Wear Long Hair? Aside from calling the idea of Jesus with long hair satanic, he believed that long hair symbolizes a revolt against God-given nature and against his precious word. His school of thought believes that Jesus was a Nazarene, a tribe that grows not to cut their hair. Although this argument continues and has many sides to it, the fact that most major religions at least have some long-haired holy men is undoubtable. There is examples in Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, and even in Christianity. They all have examples of long-haired holy men. Short and neat hair became and stayed the new standard for men for a long time. There weren't any major hair-related movements until the 1930s. As we have discussed earlier, Rastafarians started their movements in Jamaica. Organized by the poorest class, Rastafarians stood for their rights and achieved Kenya's independence in 1963. It might be a surprise to many, but Rastafarians believe the Bible. And yet, although not an essential attribute, dreadlock hair is closely linked to their version of the religion. Many young Kenyan freedom fighters swore not to cut their hair until they had freed their country from imperialism. This new trend of long hair, being a symbol of rebellism, continued with the anti-capitalist Marxist visionary Che Guevara, inspired many at the time of his living and even decades after his death. Che and Castro's attempts to overthrow the oppressive Cuban government became the image to symbolize many rebel movements later on. This trend continued in one of the weirdest times in our recent history, the surreal 1960s. Long-hair hippies were in the streets fighting the war with their sheets of acid and long hair.
I'm just a love machine, and I don't work for nobody but you. I'm just a love machine, and I don't work for nobody but you. So when my temperature rise, and then I go for her thighs, and then I say guacamole in my juice.
At the same exact time, Black Panther was fighting another war on the other side of the city. Black Panther members had huge, natural-looking afros that stood high and strong. This was one of their weapons to fight the long war of racism. In 1969, a new theory for long hair was published. Again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but the Hallpike theory stated that cutting of hair symbolizes submission to authority. For Hallpikes, long hair symbolizes freedom from society. Cutting hair symbolizes submitting to rules and authority. Anarchists took over the crown next with the rise of punk rock in the 70s. Big anarchist punk rock groups had a combination of long, dyed, and shaved heads, often resembling the African warrior tribes. And the rest? Well, the rest is now. We have gone a long way from the days that long hair was banned, but the influence of long hair being seen as messy holds up in many cases. Even today, there are plenty of jobs out there where you can't have long hair, but I believe this war is turning on its head, as long hair can send many psychological messages that can signify one's confidence. Having long hair can send a message of independence. Many see having long hair as a way to show that they don't have to depend on anyone else to make a living. Having long hair is definitely a constant struggle as well. Growing out your hair is a serious commitment, and even it can become a personal goal. By committing to waiting for your own hair to grow out, you are learning patience and becoming an overall more complete person. Long hair definitely boosts up confidence in many different forms. After all, 2/3 of men see some type of hair thinning as early as the age of 35. Knowing that hairstyle helps define a person, hair in general has always been one of, if not the primary indication of confidence in men. In one small Canadian survey conducted by Rosemary Ricciardelli, men identified hair as being the primary link between their youth and attractiveness. Rosemary then later helped to prove this theory by asking the participants to physically describe their ideal male figure. Rosemary concluded that the loss of hair reminds men of their mortality. This study ended with this conclusion: most men who express themselves through their hair, particularly with looser, unstructured hairstyles, are often creative individuals who want to express their ideas through their appearance. Outside of the psychological significance of long hair, and hair in general, long hair has a lot of different applications in between their spiritual circles. Yogi Bhajan, Indian American yoga teacher, has famously said that our hair fashion might be just a trend, but if we investigate, we may find that we have been depriving ourselves of one of the most valuable sources of energy for human vitality. I can assure you that Yogi's belief is not without value. There are a lot of different beliefs relating to long hair and spirituality. Some of these ideas go to the extremes, like the idea that the military cuts their soldiers' head to weaken their intuitive sense and mark them as a slave. I leave it up to you to believe or not believe any of these beliefs. It is believed that tips of your hair can gather energy from the universe in order to simulate higher levels of consciousness and creativity. This belief directly comes from the fact that our hair is the natural extension of our nervous system, and is said to transmit important information to the brain. Some even believe that hair can balance the entire electromagnetic field of your body, which in turn can help you increase your life force, vitality, and intuition. Yogi's school of thought believes that when you allow your hair to grow to its full potential and coil it on the crown of the head, the sun energy will be drawn down your spine. To counteract that downward movement, the life energy rises to create balance. In Yogi's words, your hair is not there by mistake. It has a definitive purpose, which sense will discover and other men will laugh at. There are some other schools of thought on this matter, but they mostly reached a similar conclusion. Some other schools of thought believe that the surplus energy from the inner organs, muscles, tendons, and blood can be stored in the external parts of the body, such as the hair. Most of these spiritual ideas are new, and I've brought some new practices alongside with them. The practice of hair breathing is when you draw the universal energy back into your body. The basic promise of hair breathing is that the hair is the external superhouse of surplus energy generated inside the body. Some others believe that since the natural intelligence of our body is maintaining its hair, we should let it do its job. There are many more spiritual ideas surrounding long hair, and I simply don't have the time to go over every single one of them. But it is a fact that most spiritual ideologies believe long hair to have many benefits.
The yogis and the Swamijis means they'll have long hair and beard, and I mean, is there any rationale behind it, or?
How old are you, ma?
I'm 42.
Okay. Even at this age, you did not realize this. It's not just yogis. Every man has a beard. It doesn't grow just on yogis, it grows on all men.
No.
And women also. In another 4 years, it'll be growing on you also to some extent. Yes?
No, but yeah,
I'll count. I'm just joking. Now, it grows in all men, but most of the men removed it. So you must ask them, not me.
The script for this video was heavily influenced by the sources that I linked down below. I recommend reading the original sources to even learn more about long hair on men and its history. Make sure to comment down below if you found anything interesting in those articles that I missed. Let's start a discussion down there. If you like videos that deep dive into psychology and how it affects our daily life, make sure to check out my psychology playlist, where I talk about some of my favorite subjects relating to psychology. If you learned something or just had a good time watching this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss any of my future videos. Alright folks, I see you all in the next video.